Good morning, you're watching World News and I'm your host, Klaudia Czerwińska. EU justice ministers in Warsaw, Poland on Friday to discuss challenges to the rule of law and their impact on the principle of mutual trust between EU member states. Polish Justice Minister Adam Bodnar will be in attendance during the meeting. EU justice ministers will discuss ways to strengthen enforcement of sanctions on Russia, particularly expanding the role of the bloc's prosecutor. They will also discuss possible further EU actions on gathering evidence on Russian war crimes in Ukraine. The gathering on Friday follows Thursday's meeting of interior ministers who discussed migration and security. We are operational in Poland, said European Chief Prosecutor Laura Kodruta-Kövesi during an interview with TVP World. This comes after Poland officially joined the European Public Prosecutor's Office in March of 2024, following a proposal by Adam Bodnar in December of 2023, shortly after he had become Poland's Minister of Justice.
I think the most important achievement is that the EPPO zone now it's enlarged, and I think this is also a big achievement for Poland, because with EPPO, everything will be safer, faster, and more efficient. And I think the Polish citizens will be more protected, because I have been a prosecutor for more than 30 years, and I learned one thing, that the security starts in the street. And nothing is more important than security of the citizens. And what EPPO is doing, one of the main scope of us and one of the main enemies of us is the organized criminal groups. And I learned that there is no clean country, and Poland is not protected from this perspective. And we already saw this in our activity in EPPO, because in the last 3 years in our investigations, we saw connections, for example, with VAT carousel fraud. But behind VAT carousel fraud, all the time, there are very, very serious criminal organized groups involved, very bad people, bad criminals, very violent. So I think this is a good news for the citizens of Poland.
During the Senate confirmation hearing of candidate for Intelligence Director Tulsi Gabbard, she was questioned about her opinions on the war in Ukraine. Senator Michael Bennett from the Democratic Party said during the hearing that some of Gabbard's previous statements align with Russian propaganda.
Moment that Russian tanks were rolling across the peaceful border of Ukraine for the first time, you tweeted at 11:30 p.m. your time. This war and suffering could have easily been avoided if Biden administration / NATO had simply acknowledged Russia's legitimate security concerns regarding Ukraine's becoming a member of NATO. Did you say that, yes or no?
I believe you're reading my tweet, Senator.
Yes is the answer. We're the Senate. We get to decide whether we're going to confirm this nominee. Obviously, we didn't select this nominee. But can't we do better than somebody who doesn't believe in 702? Can't we believe that somebody who can't answer whether Snowden was a traitor 5 times today, who made excuses for Vladimir Putin's invasion of Ukraine, the first time that I'm aware of any American official has done that? I'm questioning her judgment. That's the issue that's at stake here.
Terrorism cannot be left unpunished, said Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy, commenting on Russia's missile strike on the city of Sumy in Ukraine's northeast. He also called on the international community to continue their support for Ukraine as a response to Russia's attacks on the civilian population.
Every hour, there are updates on the situation in Sumy, where work is still ongoing at the site of the Russian Shahid strike. A regular residential building has been destroyed. 9 people have been killed. My condolences to their families. 13 people have been injured, including a child. All necessary assistance is being provided. I want to thank each rescuer, each medical worker, and all the police officers who are helping. This is already a typical signature move of Russia, destroying the lives of many families, an entire building. Every such Russian strike requires a response from the world. Terrorism cannot be left unpunished. The most effective response is to support our people, our state. We must maintain pressure on Russia and not fall for Moscow's manipulations, whether political or in the media. We need to force Russia into peace. The cause of this war lies with Russia.
Nearly 1.2 billion euros in military aid to Ukraine. That's the largest support package Stockholm has pledged to the war-torn country since the full-scale Russian invasion almost 3 years ago. The country also aims to further bolster Moldova with financial aid.
In this package, we are also financing Ukrainian investments in long-range systems, both long-range drones and long-range missiles, which they have requested. It is not only Ukraine that is in a very vulnerable position, but also Moldova. Moldova has relatively recently gone through an election and is exposed to various types of destabilization operations by Russia. There is a great need for both civilian and military support, not least to build a stronger resilience against these hybrid operations. What we are also seeking parliamentary authorization for in this bill is that we should be able to donate armored shells to Moldova to a value of 13 million.
On Friday morning, the Polish police attempted to bring former Justice Minister Zbigniew Ziobro in front of a parliamentary investigative committee, but he wasn't home. After Ziobro's repeated refusal to appear at the questioning, a court ordered that he be forcefully brought to the hearings and questioned in a case involving alleged spying on political opponents. The Pegasus Parliamentary Committee has its hearing today. It investigates allegations that the previous government used advanced spyware against its political opponents. Former Minister Zbigniew Ziobro is scheduled to be questioned. So far, it's unclear whether he will attend the hearing. Under the previous administration, Ziobro served as Poland's Justice Minister and Public Prosecutor General. As of the last hour, we have been informed about Mr. Ziobro's whereabouts at the headquarters of the conservative private Republika TV network. For the second evening in a row, thousands of people gathered in front of the Christian Democratic Union Party headquarters in Berlin on Thursday. People in Berlin and other large cities in Germany have been protesting the recent Bundestag partnership between CDU, CSU and the far-right Alternative for Germany to pass stricter immigration measures. The CDU had asked employees of its federal headquarters to leave the building earlier as a precaution before the demonstration started. According to the Berlin police, 4,000 people were registered to participate in the march in the German capital, and an additional 2,000 more attended the protest. Demonstrations also took place in cities like Munich, Dortmund, Dresden, and Hanover. The last one saw 7,000 Germans gather in a peaceful protest supported by the SPD and the Green parties. New polling data has revealed that nearly half of Danes now view the United States as a threat, and three-quarters oppose the sale of Greenland. The research by YouGov comes after weeks of tension between Denmark, Greenland, and the U.S. over Donald Trump's repeated assertions that he plans to take control of the autonomous territory, which is part of the Danish kingdom. The YouGov survey, conducted between January 15th and 22nd, found that 46% of Danes believe the U.S. poses a very big or fairly big threat, surpassing concerns about North Korea or Iran. 78% said they would oppose Greenland being sold to the U.S., but 72% said the final decision should be Greenland's, not Denmark's. An opinion poll published earlier this week found that 85% of the Greenlanders did not want the territory to become the part of the U.S. The Arctic island is home to 57,000 people and is an autonomous territory of Denmark, though its foreign and security policies are controlled by Copenhagen. A 24-hour blockade of all bridges in the Serbian city of Novi Sad. This is the latest idea of how to exert more pressure on the country's government. In early November, the soon-to-be paralyzed city saw a roof collapse that killed 15 people and injured 2, prompting scores of students to take the streets in protest against what they consider rampant corruption. Serbian Prime Minister Miloš Vučević succumbed to the demonstrations, but according to experts, his resignation might not be enough.
They can't scare us, they can't fool us, said the Serbian student taking part in large-scale protests that rock Serbia's political scene. Now the protesters are moving from the country's capital Belgrade to the second largest city of Novi Sad.
The goal and message of the action is that students are ready to continue in this fight, and that a walk from Belgrade to Novi Sad is nothing for us, even if they, the government, decide to stop the trains from commuting from Belgrade to Novi Sad. We are ready to support our colleagues. We hope to join them in time for the protests planned in a few days.
The November collapse of a concrete canopy at the recently reconstructed Novi Sad railway station sparked public outrage, with people blaming authorities for negligence and corruption.
Right now, the government has tried to minimize what has happened in Novi Sad first and say, accidents happen, that's it, like nothing to see here, move along. Second thing that they try to do once the protest started getting some momentum is that they tried to give some incentives to the students.
The protests have taken a political toll on state authorities after the resignations of the Minister of Infrastructure and the Minister of Internal and Foreign Trade. The mayor of Novi Sad and the country's prime minister were ousted.
He was always loyal to the homeland, to Serbia, to the Serbian state, and he fought for his people. He did nothing wrong, but he believed that we must set a different standard of objective responsibility compared to our predecessors.
But this might not be enough to appease the protesters who demand a proper investigation into the case.
The resignation of the Prime Minister was never one of our demands. Our demands are strictly, directly and simply addressed to the prosecutor's office. This request was never addressed by either the head of the state or the government.
And though protesters are not willing to back down,
at first, the reactions of the authorities had a certain impact on me. I was a bit scared watching what was going to happen. But as time goes by, I understand, and we all understand, that it doesn't matter. We're together, we're strong, we don't surrender.
the end of a 13-year rule of Serbian Progressive Party seems unlikely.
I remain skeptical, however, that the protests will be sufficiently massive to paralyze the institutions and compel the authorities to establish a transitional government. It seems that the transitional government, which should incorporate the opposition and experts, is not that realistic at this moment due to the absence of international backing for such an idea.
Amid the protests, a throng of Serbian public figures called on high-ranking EU officials not to remain indifferent to the situation in Serbia and to support the processes of democratic changes in Serbia.
U.S. President Donald Trump has threatened BRICS member countries with 100% tariffs to dissuade them from replacing the U.S. dollar as a reserve currency. Trump delivered a similar warning weeks after winning the November presidential election.
The idea that the BRICS countries are trying to move away from the dollar while we stand by and watch is over. We are going to require a commitment from these seemingly hostile countries that they will neither create a new BRICS currency nor back any other currency to replace the mighty US dollar, or they will face 100% tariffs and should expect to say goodbye to selling into the wonderful US economy. They can go find another sucker nation. There is no chance that BRICS will replace the US dollar in international trade or anywhere else, and any country that tries should say hello to tariffs and goodbye to America.
Poland will soon make its contribution to the International Space Station. Astronaut Sławosz Uznański-Wiśniewski, soon to be the second Polish national to ever go to space, has said he'll take the Polish flag and a batch of pierogi into orbit. Sławosz will fly into space as part of the Axiom Space Mission 4 aboard SpaceX's Dragon spacecraft. According to initial plans, the commercial space voyage is set to take off in April of this year. The Polish astronaut said his first attempts at depressurizing and removing water from the pierogi resulted in an explosion. However, after numerous tries, he managed to create a travel-safe, dehydrated, vacuum-sealed version of the dumplings, which will expand into their usual size and shape once water is added. Sławosz said he plans to share the Polish staple with both his crew as well as the ISS staff upon entering the space station.
And here we come through. First one through the hatch is going to be...
And with that very uplifting news, we end our broadcast, but please do stay tuned here on TVP World. We're back in just a moment with more news and features.